The Clippers pull out of a blockbuster trade on the eve of the NBA draft. Some familiar trade names are surfacing once again for the Lakers. And when can we expect to hear UCLA prospects get their names called tonight? Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city of the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos Morning Report. Back in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Couldn't be any more unhappy about it. But today is draft day. It's a time for new beginnings. And we have a lot of basketball to talk about today. So if you like being in the know about LA sports, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And by all means, comment. There's always interesting things to talk about when you're an LA sports fan. So before we go through the news and notes, a look at the scoreboard. LA shut out the Angels in both games of the Freeway Series. Freddie Freeman hit a home run off of Shohei Ohtani. Dodgers 2, Angels 0. Meanwhile, Galaxy 2, Sporting Kansas City 2. There's a rapid recap of that match on the Galaxy playlist. Preston Judd has been making a bid to become a starting number 9 now that Chicharito is out for the season. Him or Dejan Joveljic, there may be an argument that's about to brew over that. Meanwhile, Mateusz Bagush scored for LAFC in the first minute of the match. And that was it. Thanks for coming, guys. Drive home safely. LAFC 1, Seattle 0. Meanwhile, today, nothing. Catch up on your DVR. It seems very odd that we have to start off with the Clippers, but honestly, right now, they're actually making more news than the Lakers are. They pulled out of a potential 3-team trade that would have enabled them to pick up point guard Malcolm Brogdon. The trade eventually has gone down. It was restructured as a 3-team deal with Memphis subbing in for the Clippers. The other 2 teams involved are Washington and Boston. This is according to Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN. The big piece in the deal is Kristaps Porzingis. You might remember him a few years ago being a really big name with the New York Knicks. He is going to Boston. The other ones, honestly, who cares? It's not an LA team. You're going to hear a lot, however, about this trade impacts Boston, Memphis, and Washington. But let's talk about how it impacts the Clippers, who pulled out of the deal. Brogdon could have solved an ongoing point guard issue with that team. Could have. The problem is he's 30 years old, he's injury prone, and frankly, even though he's productive, he's more suited to be a reserve than a starter. Matter of fact, it was Brogdon's medical history which caused the Clips to apply the brakes. So in other words, not only was a problem not potentially solved, another one might be there that we just don't know about yet, or don't know with certitude. LA was supposed to send Marcus Morris to Washington as part of that deal. If you recall, we talked just yesterday about how Morris was allegedly complaining about his diminishing role in Los Angeles. That was in the LA Times. Morris denies the report, and I was skeptical of the report. I'm not so sure I'm skeptical now. You're talking about a guy who may or may not have complained about a diminishing role, and then the next day getting shipped off to Washington in a trade that got nixed. So now, instead of potentially solving an issue, the Clippers have 2. Solving things with Marcus Morris, which isn't an impossible task, I might add. That's not that difficult, potentially. But you're still lacking at point guard. You're still lacking, potentially, at power forward and or backup center. So at the NBA draft tonight, know this. The Clippers currently have picks 30 and 48, and it is absolutely pointless for me to speculate over who the Clippers can take. There's too many variables involved. That pick is too late in the first round to sit there and say that we know they're going to get a game changer. We don't. What I can tell you is this. I can tell you what they need more than anything else. Healthy players. This team is centered around Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. who are both now in their 30s and injury prone. They need somebody that they can rely on to actually be on the court and contribute. So sure, if you could go find yourself a point guard who's eventually going to start at 30, that would be terrific. Although the idea of getting a starting point guard at 30, the odds are kind of long. Getting a backup center, oh, of course you can do that at 30. So it is possible that you can solve those problems, but the bigger problem is player availability. You're going to need somebody who can eventually not completely fill the shoes of a Kawhi Leonard or a Paul George. That's going to be impossible at 30. But find somebody who will be available to help fill that gap when those two players miss time. Versatile and healthy. That is the focus, in my opinion, for the Clippers draft. Stories about trading out of the 17 spot for the Lakers has been gaining momentum, but I'm telling you right now, I'm starting to become skeptical about it. I'm simply not sure. And the reason that I am skeptical about it is the primary source of those stories, Jovan Buha of The Athletic. Now look, I'm a huge fan of The Athletic, but I don't necessarily trust that particular reporter yet. Here's why. He's saying that they're probably the momentum to trade out of 17 is increasing. And who are they going to trade for? The dude listed a bunch of names that you could just see in random blogs. What? That doesn't make a lot of sense, because those teams wanted Lakers first round draft picks, wanted multiple first round draft picks in order to make the trade, right? Take two names, for example, that resurfaced. Guard Buddy Hield and center Miles Turner of Indiana. Indiana wanted 2 first-round picks for those players. And by the way, those first-round picks would have been considered high because the Lakers stunk at the early part of last year, as I'm sure many of you recall. So now we're supposed to believe that instead of sending 2 high first-round draft picks to Indiana, that the Pacers would settle for 1, plus a couple of bench jockeys in Malik Beasley and Mo Bamba. Bamba, who doesn't even play that much due to his injury problem. Do you buy that? That sounds like a super low return on investment for Indiana compared to what they were asking before. So no, I don't buy those rumors. At pick number 17, though, for the Lakers, now this is assuming that they keep it, it's pretty foolish for me to throw around names as to who they could take. But if it were me, I mentioned how the Clippers need people who are available and versatile and healthy. If it were me and I kept the pick, I'd go with a big. Look, versus Denver, the Lakers were simply too small. Anthony Davis was pretty much their only big man. Mo Bamba wasn't available at all. And Davis doesn't like playing in the paint for 48 minutes a game. And he gets hurt when he plays in the paint for 48 minutes a game. And by the way, it wasn't just Denver. Remember, the Memphis Grizzlies in the playoffs missed a lot of players due to injury. Had those players been healthy, Memphis would have been the bigger team, going away. So to continue to compete, to continue to have a shot at a very brief championship window, in my opinion, the Lakers need a backup center. Or somebody who's definitely going to take the strain off of Anthony Davis. There are 4 UCLA basketball players that are eligible for the NBA draft tonight. Now, it's gone back and forth in these mock drafts. Who should be the first Bruin picked, right? But now there appears to be consensus that it's going to be Jaime Jaquez Jr. somewhere mid to late in the first round. And yes, as previously discussed, the Lakers have a mid-first round draft pick at 17. Amari Bailey is allegedly slotted to be picked up somewhere in the second round. Jalen Clark might get drafted, but he's iffy. Recall, he injured his Achilles toward the end of the season. And guard Tiger Campbell, I haven't seen a mock draft with him being taken. He's probably going to be an undrafted free agent. So there's that. Julio Urias will be heading to Rancho Cucamonga for a 4-inning rehab stint on Sunday. The target now, provided that he can pitch those 4 innings without pain, is to rejoin the Dodgers starting rotation by the end of the month, presumably against Kansas City. Speaking of the Dodgers rotation, Dave Roberts said that Noah Syndergaard is staying in Los Angeles during his stint on the injured list. Quote, he's got someone that he's really comfortable with and trusts. Right now, it makes more sense to keep him local, unquote. Syndergaard, obviously, as we all know, has been struggling. He has started 12 games for the Dodgers this year. His ERA is 7.16. Max Muncy, he had a hamstring issue. He could be back in the lineup as soon as Friday. Chris Taylor is back and could be back in the starting lineup as well, also on Friday. Former LAFC striker Gareth Bale, who was an international star in soccer, told Lionel Messi that if Messi comes to MLS, there's less pressure because clubs, quote, accept losing a lot better over there, unquote. Messi, by the way, did decide to come to MLS. He's joining Inter Miami, presumably toward the end of July. Bale, it's a helpful quote for Messi if he wants a less pressured life. I admit that. But it sure as hell doesn't lessen Bale's reputation for being considered lazy and a gold bricker. Remember all the things that guy was called for being a sluggard, a sloth, whatever. Go through your thesaurus, look for the name lazy, look for the name dullard, and that's Gareth Bale. All of those would have applied to the guy. Now, he finished his career with LAFC and with Wales in the World Cup. Bale added that Messi will, quote, definitely enjoy, unquote, playing here because of the lower pressure that's applied to on production over here. The Rams have signed wide receiver Puka Nacua and Davis Allen. Now, both of those guys were fifth-round draft picks. The Rams have 8 draft picks that haven't been signed yet. So when you're drafted, by the way, whatever slot you are, it's pretty much mapped out what you're supposed to get. So there's really not a whole hell of a lot of room to negotiate for a better deal. So it's kind of curious that the Rams still haven't signed those 8 players. We'll see what happens. Offensive tackle Jensen Somerville has committed to play for UCLA as part of the class of 2024. The Bruins, by the way, have 4 offensive linemen committed in that class. All 4 of them play tackle, which is curious. As for Somerville, he's from Utah. 6'7", 290 pounds. He is considered a 3-star prospect. Speaking of college football, you're online, you're at work, you're avoiding the temptation to go to Pornhub. You type in USC football and you see these headlines. Oh my God, USC has new uniforms. No, they don't. No, they don't. That's a lie. They don't. Here's what's happening. The Pac-12 patch is being removed. If you are a high school player and you are committing to play for the Trojans in 2024, the Trojans are no longer in the Pac-12. They're in the Big Ten. So they've replaced the Pac-12 patch with the Big Ten patch. It's not a new uniform. It's a new patch. There's a big difference. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Should the Clippers have gone through with that 3-team blockbuster trade? Do you think the Lakers will be trading out of 17? And if so, for what? And if you enjoyed talking with me this morning, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We talk LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.